talk about size planning, floor planning, detailing, and graphing, and in that graphical representation of the two mentioned there is both size plan and floor plan. Yeah. So first of all, generally, you know that the side plan is a bad idea or the top view or any architectural plan that's it embark on. So the size plan is the basic or a first foundational components of any floor plan that we are making. Any design always emanate from the size plan. Then from the size plan, we proceed to other aspects of the design, that is the floor plan. In school, if I have never made BBB, we always thought that any design we are making machine always make it functional from the size. And making it functional from the size, we have to follow the rules that leave the size functional. That is where we be, how do you call it? Because the set as analysis, getting the beam direction, the sunrise and the sunsets, the topography on the sites, the animal is the components, that is the landmark encompassing the sites. So those also affect the functionality of the sites. And when you get all those components right in analysis, it makes the design and applying on the sites very easy. If you get the all those things I mentioned, that is the landscape, the topography, the sunrise and the sunsets, and also the wind direction to help us plan and zone the elements of the site properly, access, exits, emergency, and the rest. The site plan is really important because it helps release the building to its environments, its surrounding environments, and its surrounding environment depends on the weather around it, the landmark around it, accessibility, and also its environmental impacts. And architects, you also need to get the vital representation and cohesiveness beneath everything that we have from the planning to the actualization. After getting the size plan right, the next is the problem. Now the floor plan helps. The floor plan is basic. According to my record, the says is no life with horizontal cut through. If you're talking of capital representation, is horizontal cut through of the building layout, showing structural components like doors, windows, and the structural members that consists that exists in the facility. So there are different types of graphical representation of plan. We have the schematic representation, the construction representation, and that the one that we use for presentation. And in all these categories, you can have them for both commercial, residential, and also for commercial residential. Basically, there are two in commercial aspects and residential aspects. Case of that representation, each of the facilities had each of the different plans had its own category in terms of conceptual, as in terms of schemas and construction. That's conceptual for the schematic and construction, that's for presentation and working more useful working dreams. In terms of feeling, like I said in my past edition, there's what we call visual representation of elevates a particular subject. Let's take for example the subject of floor plans. Every floor plan has a distinct feature. Either it's for the conceptual representation or the construction representation. So when we are doing or when we try to figure out the site plans and floor plan, either for conceptual and schematic or either for construction, we should always try to distinct our vector representation for each subject and the subject of site plans and the subject of floor plans, so that when a layman, the end user, in the aspect of the clients or those that are using our documents go up, can easily differentiate and they can easily know the differences or a distinct difference between the two types in terms of schematic and construction. So the reason why graphics editing is very important for the two types of presentation, because if, for example, we use the same type of line that you use for your schematic, that's your conceptual representation, it's not the same type of line that you use for your construction presentation, even if it's the same element or the same message you're trying to point out. Because for the two types of documents, the end users are different. For the schematic or concept representation, it's mostly the clients that's easy. So for the constructions representation, it's mostly the artisans and those that are way to the building more people. So for the rules of graphics, we don't know that there are different kinds of softwares and applications that use graphical representation. Aside the normal CAD software that we use, there are other, for like say, low-end softwares that's other professionals aside architects that aid the portray their graphical representation to the construction formats and in the schematic formats. Now, for the aspect of sustainability contribution, well, there are in the times where sustainability and illegal systems are being integrated with every aspects of design in terms of actualization, in terms of presentation, also to the end user. I will go back to planning. Well, planning generally, well, like I always say, planning is the base of every successful architectural representation in terms of practical representation of functionality or whatever they're trying to present. So you should always try and develop schemes and programs that will help us actualize our end goal from planning to graphical representation, either schematic formats or for the construction formats. Because and in planning, there are different subsets in planning. Planning for your timeline, planning for how you are representing each of the subjects, that is floor plan and site plan, planning for how you are going to make the end user appreciates every detail in terms of graphical representation, line widths, furniture, colors, and planning as functionality, making the design functional and workable. Also planning, also integrating other professionals, like we have the engineers, the surveyors, and the clients. Then also in terms of planning, you should always come up in terms with the rules and regulations that building laws have been put guiding every over design, because union laws are put help us keep us in check not going out of the regional, because every land, I think every land the expertise, but for every land is allocated its own land use. So we also put the land allocation in our planning. So furthermore on detailing, yeah, detailing is very essential because it helps. Detailing might not necessarily graphical education. Other aspects like without mean schedule, that's an ample penny because there are some principle or there are some representation that we can show on the horizontal chord tree or on the vertical chord tree. That schedule will help us to begin that finishing schedule. Other mini schedules are lighting schedule. So schedule is another form of DJE that we also need to put more emphasis on because that's, I would say, is it helps the end user, in terms of the clients, and also those that are in for construction to help quantify and estimate the components I have put on the plans, terms of size plan, top plans, elevation, and the rest. So when I talk of plans, looking at size plan, top plans, derivation, every graphical documents. So furthermore, until also, so let's pay more attention on our schedules, because schedules help our graphical and the horizontal portrait representation more readable and more highly determined for a layman to connect or to understand our flow plans and the rest. Then on graphics. Yeah, recently there's something happening. There's architectural graphics and there's digital graphics. Some graphics will try to send the next birthday color guys. That's some clients prefer their repliants, their documents to be more colorful and working. But some clients they face less colors, less furnitures, straight to the coins. They just want to see the walls, the doors, and other components sit down as minimal as possible. They try is there any question, projections, before I conclude?
So just a little contribution about gazetted law. Um, I think basically everything felt that this point is one about language and communication. Language is the means of communicating between two people or between or a geographical area, and as the building environments or an architect or everybody that makes up the building thing, the language that we use communicates basically it's our graphics. And if you don't get a language right, there's going to be an issue in communication. You will not expect you as an architect to take a phone today and call your engineer on site. Just saying, put the wall from here to here, take it from. You can't do such explanation. I mean, it's getting very crazy. So a method was developed by, I don't know who, maybe the Egyptians or whoever, to pass on information through graphics. And the design director has been able to explain to us once that means, and it's called graphics. He explained it in terms of the site planning, the block planning. Like he said, site planning is an aerial view, which you all know. And as it seemed, I think it's very, very important for us to understand how these things are done properly. Things like uh, graphics and design varies from school to schools. We've heard things like school of thoughts, and it also varies from companies and firms to another firm. So as a team, I think it's very important for us to maintain a certain school of thought. So when we come together, it's easier for us to pass on this knowledge. And not just the knowledge that will be beneficial to us, but the knowledge that will be beneficial to anybody that picks up our drawing anywhere in the world. I mean, it's going to be very funny if an engineer somewhere on sites and carries the drawing from clay boulders. It's going to be very painful. And I think looks at it and gonna be like, what kind of drawing is this? Who did this kind of drawing? So I think it's very important that we get these basic things right as a team while we are still growing. Also, floor plan, which is explained as the horizontal section. The horizontal section means, you know how we have our vertical section, which is the normal section. When you take a section horizontally, there are basic things you see first in a building from the top view. And I believe that from our graphic lectures in school, certain things were explained to us about line weight. In order not to make our design boring, we must employ the right use of graphics so that we'll be able to pass on clear message to whoever is picking up our drawing, and the person will have the ability to understand what we are saying without asking so many questions.
Thank you.
Talking about viewing codes. So the first instance, the side layouts, the TVK is sent here. So, for instance, now if you got the drawing 488, the first thing you have to do is to call the development control people or ask, oh, have you called the development control? What's allow you on these blocks? Because they have different restrictions for different blocks. They want to know, the client can call now and say, I want sports ID patch and that and this and that are there. When you now design that, they'll call you back later and tell you that, oh, the one don't want to approve it in that place. So your first point of action should be to find out the building code, what's allowable with that area, and I'll also encourage us to follow through with the work that the engineer does. So it's important that when we finish the drawings, to just don't leave it at architectural. I'm talking about each architect now. Whatever project that you're involved in, you follow through with what the engineer is going to do, and follow through with every other planning detail that is not in direct relation, it's not directly architectural. Because every other thing planned on that project should run through the architects. So for instance, with the HFM green wall, the green wall we're doing with HFM, we're supposed to have water on the green wall, to be feeding the plants, right? And the client wants a green gilding, so we're supposed to do rainwater harvesting. So we're proposing that we have a ground tank, and the ground tank is going to collect water from the rain from the roof, collect water from the roof, and then send it down to the ground tank. And from the ground tank, that should be the same water that we use to feed the drain system, the irrigation thing on the green wall. If possible, could it be possible that at the point that the water is watering the plants, maybe at the bottom of the wall there is another collection system that will collect the water again and send it back into the purification system, and then the water now goes back into the ground tank, so that you do not have water spinning all through the sites when the irrigation thing is going on. I don't know if irrigation is the right word. Now, if you just send these drawings to the electrical and MEP engineers, trust me, they won't bother to do all these things like irrigation. You understand? So you have to do the one to go over things with them. And so I want it this way, I want it that way. And to an extent, too, it's important that we try to highlight this kind of details on our architectural drawings as well. So that when you send the drawings out to him and you don't have to start calling them, say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's already there. So we just follow through with what you indicated and now improve on it. So it's very important that we think things thoroughly in that manner. Where's your ground tank? Where's your upper deck tank? If there is no sewage system in that place, you also want to know. Talking about building codes, there are a couple of things that you have to find out. Is there government sewage in that place? If it's a project in Wozapi, Maitama, the government sewage system, so the old Sapaway. It is in Kubwa, or if it's in Bede, then you have to apply for a Sapaway. If it's in Aba, you have to write for a Sapaway. It's out of Abuja, you have to write for a Sapaway. So you have to plan those things on the sites. It's very, very important. And when the structural engineer finishes too, sometimes it pays. Just collect the drawing and the structural drawing. You'll find that one column is not in the right place. You understand? Or you find that, this place that you chamfered, work, or you call back the engineer as it in before something. Please always follow through with the engineer's drawings. And for dimensioning, I've said this several times. You are still doing dimensioning manually. I know there is a tool for. I don't think it's even AI. Exactly. There is I've seen a couple of videos on it. What I've seen it on Revit. You can dimension things faster. Yeah. Are we? So let's look into it and employ it. I know even in AutoCAD itself. Yes, there are ways on AutoCAD that you can just put a couple of clicks and it will just give you all that thing I was explaining that to just dimension for you. And we're always looking for architects all the time. And we have about 13 architects, I don't know, right now. How to see that we are not able to get our friends on board? Good guys don't have friends that are smart. You don't have friends that are interested in architecture. Some people don't want to do just architecture. You might have friends that are doing graphics. You understand? How can they come and help us with graphics work? You understand? If you have a friend that is interested in architecture, join Baby So. Maybe any of your female friends, they usually don't like to practice because they think it's too stressful. So someone like that is interested in graphics can join our media team. You understand, as an architect, to help the media teams to understand things better, mean that person is an architect. So please look out for your friends. Look out for your friends that we can draw it. You can actually invite your friends a couple of times to come visit you guys in the studio. Maybe you restrict it just 20 minutes or 10 minutes with 6 so that they don't stop or distract earlier than lesson. And maybe that way you'll be able to get to come in and you're interested in more already. And Varun spoke about not having a partner because of the graphics. Engineers are very petty people. I don't know if people have noticed. Yes. They're very, very petty. They'll call the project. In fact, the guy in Maitama, the value going to engineer in Maitama, the clients called me some days ago and said that we didn't put the guest toilets in one of the apartments. That we forgot to put guest toilets in one of the apartments. That's what I'll get back to you. And fine, now open the drawing. I'm like, it's not possible. It's not even possible that we can forget to put guest toilets. It's not even possible. I'll open the drawing and then now did a screen record to show the guy where the guest toilet is on my mistakes. This guy has my WhatsApp though. But he chose to call the clients. Now, this was under the staircase. Do you understand? So if a toilet under the staircase sometimes is not very clear because of the tougher kinds and all. But if an engineer does that for something as clear as a guest toilet under the staircase, imagine what he would do for drawings that are not graphically readable. He will just call the guy, these people don't know what they are doing, or that the marketing, serious the marketing, and that same engineer has had countless, there are other things that he has done on that project that trying to call me, and it's discover that it's false. I don't think the guy is mad. He has a mental problem. But that's how they are. They are not very I'm on camera, I'm on camera, and this was actually go online, and I say it to their face a lot of times. They are not very smart people. Mr. Saki, I'm sorry. They're not very smart people. To give an engineer something, and then he has to explain 10 times over. You have to explain 12 times. I gave Mark drawings to mark the niche in Asokoro. Dimension on plan and dimension on elevation. I go there and it just mark. He marked and chiseled the 350 by 350 to come there for niche. And we have to do the whole thing on over any. Easy engineers that will change your design on sites because it's too difficult to build or not difficult to build, but they just don't want to crack their head. You understand? So these things that we are developing here, it goes into the hands of this kind of people, the engineers. So you need to, I think there is a series of books that is for, they call it for dummies, right? This for dummies, that for dummies, you understand? Yeah. So let's see our work like that. You're doing work for dummies. Yeah. Okay, you're doing work for dummies, I just wish sometimes I could inject some of superhuman blood the architects have into Byzantine figures. But it's not possible. Okay, so lightweight and everything, that's it there.
Is anybody but with the same conclusion, what we are all trying to say is we should try and distinct our representation, and our distinction will be based on the end user, either the client, the engineer, or the end user basically. And the end users, there are different categories. So in terms of graphical representation of every of our architectural detailing in terms of floor plans, and our detailing should transcend beyond floor plan, size plan, and also scheduling. Because scheduling is another important aspects of detailing too. Our finishing schedule, window schedule, material schedule, specification writing also. That's another aspects of detailing. So we should employing us also we should employ other use of representation in our architectural case. Thank you.